And you mentioned that kind of split between, I guess, heaven and earth, of the material on the one hand and the spiritual on the other. And a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, a few writers, I guess, attribute agriculture to be the kind of the moment it really, really went wrong, because it's the kind of embodiment of all of this anxious forward planning, right? That comes along with language of sacrifice today, so you can reap what you sowed tomorrow. But then you also write about the idea that with agriculture, that was such an important step of us pulling away from the natural world, trying to control it. And that along with that comes this change in spirituality of seeing, as with something like Taoism, seeing God or spirit as being synonymous with nature, through to this view of a detached, I guess, kind of separated God from a lowly material world.
Yeah. Yeah, that has a lot to do, it has something to do with agriculture at a fundamental level, but it has a lot more to do with what arose from agriculture, especially mass agriculture, and hierarchical societies, division of labor, social classes, the concept of ownership. These things evolved over thousands of years. It wasn't like somebody all of a sudden got this bad idea. Let's start domesticating. Hey, I have an idea, like two cavemen. Hey, Og, I've got an idea. Let's, instead of living in harmony and participation in nature, let's dominate nature instead and plant crops and master the animals, and build cities and have slaves and turn women into property. And the other caveman says, yeah, good idea. But that's not how it happened. It evolved imperceptibly, slowly, where the cultivation of grains started with maybe annual visits to grain-rich areas where they were growing naturally, and then maybe over time you come into a symbiosis with these grains, and you end up, in relationship to them, and you end up, at first undigested grains come out in your poop, and they grow better, and then eventually maybe you start pooping in the very best spots, and eventually, like over centuries or thousands of years, it turns into horticulture. Same thing with animal domestication. It starts with maybe annually going to where the animals are in great numbers, and then eventually maybe you follow them around, and then eventually you come into relationship with them. You protect them from predators, perhaps. So it happened over thousands of years. Same thing with all the other aspects of civilization. So because it happened so organically, and because it happened independently on so many places on Earth, I think we have to say that it was inevitable. Pretty much anywhere agriculture could have happened, it happened. The places where it never happened just didn't have domesticable plants and animals. Like Australia. Like you really couldn't do agriculture there. Which is fortunate for humanity, actually, because over the 50,000 or 80,000 years that humans have been in Australia, they developed in other directions, other kinds of technologies that are not dependent on what comes from agriculture, which is division of labor. Like division of labor because of, agricultural surplus, that allows the development of what we recognize today as technology, because it requires specialization and so forth. Other long-lasting cultures developed kinds of technology that do not depend on this division of labor. The Australian Aborigines have, they developed, for example, technologies of dream that I don't think have really fully been delivered to the world yet. But ultimately, they will be as important to the next stage of human development as, electronics are.